A quarter of a century ago, facing lawsuits from several states and the U.S. government, the tobacco industry agreed to change its marketing practices and pay more than $200 billion in damages. Provinces here in Canada launched similar lawsuits, looking to recover the healthcare costs incurred due to tobacco-related illness. But if you're waiting for a similar billion-dollar punchline, you're not alone. With us now to explain, Sarah Butson. She's Public Affairs and Policy Analyst with the Canadian Lung Association, and we're delighted to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
How would you describe the behavior of tobacco companies in Canada over the last couple of decades?
Well, I think the best way to describe it is an unparalleled history of wrongdoing. So this is an industry that we know has had a history of directly trying to attract young recruits to become their next generation of users. We know that there has been a history of misleading and misrepresenting the product to conceal the dangers that really are part of that product. So it's, most of us will remember the days of mild and light cigarettes that, implied some sort of safety to those products that was just completely false. And we saw aggressive marketing around Slims for females, for example, to make them Virginia Slims. Making them more attractive. But the reality is this is a harmful product that kills 1 in 2 when used as intended. So it's really, a tainted history, unlike most industries.
Profitable, though.
Very profitable.
Mm-hmm. Can you give us, maybe just walk us through a bit of the history of tobacco-oriented lawsuits in Canada?
Sure. So our first lawsuit in Canada was in British Columbia. That was in the early 2000s, actually. And what's significant about that case is that the right to actually sue was challenged as part of that. And what the courts found is that, in fact, provinces can sue the tobacco companies. And so as a result, one by one, the provinces began to sue. So fast forward many years, we actually had an additional case in Quebec. This was a class action lawsuit. About 100,000 residents in Quebec who were suffering from lung cancer, throat cancer, emphysema. They sued as well. And what's significant about that is that they won. So they won a settlement of over $13 billion.
When did that happen?
That happened back in 2019. Mm-hmm. So at that time, the tobacco industries looked at that class action suit. They looked at the variety of suits that were against them, and they said, we're going to enter into bankruptcy protection. So they've been in bankruptcy protection since 2019. And that's what brings us to this conversation today about what's happening in terms of the negotiations to get out of that bankruptcy protection.
My hunch is not very many people know that anything is happening. Why is that?
Absolutely. If you talk to someone on the streets and ask them about these court cases, they might not be aware of them. Since 2019, these negotiations for this settlement have really been happening behind closed doors. These are conversations that are happening between the provinces and the tobacco companies. Health organizations like ourselves are also not at the table. And so that's really why we want to bring this to light today, to make folks aware of what's happening, but also the opportunities that are at stake.
Now, I guess because these are all behind closed doors negotiations, there haven't been, we don't have any documents that we've been able to look at, or there's not much talk about, nothing's leaking out. Why don't we know more about what's going on there?
Yeah, we really don't know. It's been very tight-lipped. It's a closed door approach. And so we really don't know the ins and outs of the conversation and the negotiation that's happening. But what is critical is that because in order for the tobacco companies to get out of bankruptcy protection, they really require the provinces to agree. So if a settlement is reached, the provinces have a lot of leverage here. And so we really want to ensure that the provinces use that leverage to get not just financial compensation from the tobacco companies, but actually push for public health measures and further tobacco control policy.
You won't be surprised to hear we did contact the Government of Ontario in hopes of getting some kind of statement or indication of where things are at. And we heard back from a spokesperson for the Attorney General, Doug Downey. And I'm going to read you what was on that statement.
Sure.
Due to a 2019 court order, all communications made among the parties in the course of the mediation must be confidential. Accordingly, we are not able to comment on our position in the ongoing settlement negotiations. What do you think of that?
Sure. Well, we know, like we said, that they are closed doors, so we really don't expect more of a comment than that, but we really want to use this opportunity and this platform that you've graciously allowed us to have here to talk about some of the other things that the province should be considering in this settlement. That if a settlement happens, we're asking for the province to look at a suite of measures. Things like ensuring that there's about 10% of the settlement that goes to an independent fund that would be focused on tobacco control. Things like ending all tobacco promotion that remains in Canada. Perhaps requiring additional payouts by the tobacco industry if we don't meet our tobacco reduction targets. And then publicly disclosing the almost $6 million pages of internal tobacco industry documents that have come forward as part of these lawsuits.
Now, have you ever had an opportunity to sit down with someone from the Attorney General's office to let them know that's what you hope to get out of these negotiations?
Well, we're doing a series of advocacy efforts on top of just speaking publicly to folks. We have an open letter currently out to the Premier. We also have a website where we're trying to educate and do letter writing policies to really inform and help get that message across.
And the we is who?
So the big we is, so I'm part of the Canadian Lung Association. Collectively with the Canadian Cancer Society and Heart and Stroke, we've been really working on this call.
So I guess you're not really sure that anybody who's in the negotiating room knows what you want if you haven't met with them directly.
That's right. And that's why it's really important that this open call is out here, that we are, really highlighting the issue and bringing the importance of this unique opportunity. This is a once-in-a-lifetime historic opportunity to not just recoup costs, but to change the way that we interact with the tobacco industry. So it really is absolutely critical that that message is delivered and is heard.
These negotiations have been going on for like 4 years now.
Yes.
Is that typical? Is it supposed to go on that long?
Well, the entire lawsuits in the United States lasted 4 years, so we're taking a little bit longer, but it's important that we get it right. So, let's make sure that, speed is important, certainly, because we have Canadians dying every year that this negotiation goes on, but it is important that we get it right.
Do you have confidence that the people who are negotiating on behalf of the people of Ontario are up to the job?
Well, all we can do is continue to advocate, continue to make sure that we've done everything that we can during the process of these negotiations to make sure that our message is heard and hope that that opportunity is not lost.
I see the big 4 things that you want here, you just told us about, but short of that, what would you consider to be an acceptable outcome from this process?
Well, it really needs to, the foremost, most important thing is really to have funds set aside beyond the settlement that are independent of government, that are focused on tobacco control. Canada has long been a leader in tobacco control worldwide. Countries have looked to us for some of our important measures. The first to have graphic health warnings. We have very robust plain and packaging regulations. In fact, today, the Government of Canada is making an announcement to have warnings directly on cigarettes in Canada. That would be the first worldwide. So, we've really been a leader, but it is critical that coming out of settlements and lawsuits that are about the wrongdoing of the industry, that we set ourselves up to better control that industry in the future. And that really requires sustained and dedicated funding.
Well, you say to that end, you would ban all promotion. Now, we know
That's right.
Advertising's been gone for a long time, but what else is out there promoting that you want to see an end to?
Right. So gone are the days of, the sponsorship and the fireworks shows that many of us remember, but there are still a few areas that tobacco companies are allowed to promote their products. These are places where people are 18 and older, so they might be in, bars, et cetera, that require folks to be of a certain age. It could be through direct messaging. So we've come a long way, but really, these lawsuits, again, are based on the harm that these products cause. And so, it seems absurd to continue to promote those products beyond the lawsuits.
You were a smoker once upon a time.
Long, long time ago, of course, I socially smoked. I grew up in an era where smoking was everywhere. I waitressed in a bar where I could choose to work in the smoking section or the non-smoking section for my shift. So this is not something that is that long of a history, right? Many of us remember this time when these products were everywhere and where smoke was everywhere. So it's critical that we have these tobacco control initiatives that are focused on making policy change. I really credit the fact that I don't smoke today with the work of my colleagues who prevented tobacco from being allowed indoors, out of bars and restaurants, out of public places. The less accessible that product became, the less interested it became for me.
Well, keep us surprised with how the negotiations are going when you know anything, and we'll have you back and you can comment on what they eventually come up with and whether it's any good.
We will, absolutely. And let's hope that the province seizes this opportunity to not just get financial compensation, but really to protect the future harm for Canadians.
Gotcha. That's Sarah Butson, Public Affairs and Policy Analyst with the Canadian Lung Association. Sarah, thanks for visiting us at TVO.
Thanks so much for having me.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.